If I'd found out my husband was cheating, I might have felt relief. Because the truth? The truth made me wish it was just an affair. My name's Rachel. I'm 29 and I live in Flagstaff, Arizona. I've been married to Tyler, 30, for 4 years. We've got 2 daughters, Hazel and Quinn, and until last month, I honestly believed we were living our little version of the dream. We were that nauseating couple who still called each other babe, and passed each other love notes on napkins. Tyler always joked that we were still in our honeymoon phase. Then I found a tampon in the back seat of his Subaru. It happened on a rainy Tuesday. I was buckling Hazel into her car seat when I saw something peeking out from between the cushions. I assumed it was just a crushed granola bar wrapper or one of the endless trinkets our kids scatter like confetti. But when I reached in, my fingers curled around something cylindrical and plasticky. A tampon. At first, I blinked at it like it was a hallucination. I haven't had a period in over a year, thanks to the IUD. And I've never used this brand. It had a shiny blue wrapper that looked like something off a drugstore end cap. That's when the pit opened in my stomach. That night I showed it to Tyler. I held it out like a tiny, damning piece of evidence. I found this in your car. It's not mine. He looked at it like it was a foreign object, like I'd handed him a seashell from Mars. Oh, he said, blinking. That's probably Fiona's. Fiona. His co-worker. The one we both knew. The one whose husband grilled ribs with us last Labor Day. She must have dropped it when we went to lunch last week, he added, already turning back to his phone. Like I was overreacting. Like this wasn't a breach in the skin of our marriage. I tried to swallow my suspicion. I really did. Fiona had been in our house. Her son had played with our kids. We'd swapped stories over boxed wine while watching true crime reruns. She'd even sent me memes about mom burnout. So maybe it had just fallen out of her purse. But it didn't sit right with me. So I tested her. The next time we were out together, I made up a fake emergency and asked if she had a tampon. She handed me one, identical brand, identical wrapper. I actually felt relief. For a moment I thought, okay. Maybe it really was hers. Maybe it was innocent. Until this morning. I was grabbing socks for Hazel when I found another tampon. In my drawer. Nestled between my ankle socks and old sports bras. Same brand. Same wrapper. My skin went cold. There's no version of this where that makes sense. Hazel's 2. Quinn's 4. They don't know what tampons are, let alone how to hide one in my dresser. Tyler never unpacks my laundry. So who put it there? That was the moment something in me flipped. I'd wanted to believe Tyler. I'd gaslit myself into thinking I was being paranoid. But this wasn't just a tampon in a car anymore. This was someone sending a message. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat down on the edge of our bed with the tampon in my hand and this heavy, suffocating realization: someone had been in my space. Close enough to plant something where I'd find it. And whoever it was, they wanted me to know. Whatever this was, it wasn't over. I didn't sleep that night. I lay there next to Tyler, listening to the rhythm of his breath, wondering how a man can sleep so soundly while my world felt like it was falling apart in slow motion. By the next morning, I still hadn't told him about the second tampon. I couldn't. I was embarrassed, not just by what I'd found, but by the spiraling paranoia that had taken root in my chest. I kept telling myself there had to be another explanation. But what kind of explanation ends with a tampon in my sock drawer? I told my sister Becca. We met for coffee the next day, and I laid it all out: the tampon in the car, the awkward conversation with Fiona, the second tampon in the drawer. Becca's face tightened with every detail. "That's not random," she said flatly. "That's someone ing with you. Or with both of you." We compared the tampon she'd brought to the one I still had. Same brand, different absorbency. Becca stared at it like it was a clue from a crime scene. "It's either Fiona," she said, "or someone else you really don't want it to be." That's when she asked the question I'd been too scared to say out loud. Has anyone else been around the girls while you weren't home? I hesitated. No. I mean, no one but Tyler. Becca didn't say anything, but I knew what she was thinking. We agreed it was too early for cameras. We didn't even know what we were looking for. And we'd been around Fiona and her husband enough to trust, at least on paper, that they weren't sneaking around with my husband behind my back. So we waited. We watched. Then Quinn got sick. She was running a fever and couldn't keep food down. I wanted to call in sick, but Tyler insisted he'd stay home with her. You've missed too much work, he said gently, brushing my hair behind my ear. I've got this. It almost felt like love again for a second. Until I walked in on Friday afternoon and saw Quinn sitting on the living room floor in an unfamiliar onesie. Pale pink with tiny white polka dots. The kind of outfit I'd sworn off years ago because of the stupid snaps down the front. Worse? She had a clip in her hair. A tiny floral bow I'd never seen in my life. Not once. I froze. That onesie. He would have never dressed her in that. He doesn't even know where the baby clothes are. And Tyler doesn't do hair. He barely combs his own. I walked over slowly and asked Quinn, Sweetheart, who put that in your hair? She just giggled and said, Auntie. I felt my breath catch. I crouched down beside her. Which auntie, honey? She shrugged and ran off to her coloring books. That night, I confronted Tyler. Did anyone come over while I was gone? I asked, watching him closely. He looked up from his laptop, eyebrows drawn. No. Just me and the girls. Why? I told him about the clothes. About the bow. About the word. Auntie. He blinked. Confused. Or pretending to be. Ratch, come on. You're being dramatic. Maybe you just forgot buying it. I hadn't. I didn't buy it. I said, the words like lead. And you didn't either. So who did? He sighed. You're overthinking again. Maybe it came in a gift bag. Or maybe Becca brought something by. You should talk to someone about this. You're not sleeping. You're stressed. There it was. The gaslight. The same damn light I watched my mother drown under when my dad swore her postpartum depression was all in her head. I could feel it flickering behind Tyler's eyes now. But I wasn't falling for it. Later that night, I ordered 2 motion-activated cameras. Had them shipped to Becca's house so Tyler wouldn't know. Becca's husband offered to help set them up discreetly. But before the cameras even arrived, I got the notification. My Ring doorbell app lit up at 10:46 a.m. the next Tuesday. A weekday. I was at work. Tyler was supposed to be home. The girls? Supposed to be at daycare. But the footage showed something else. A woman I hadn't seen in years. Walking up to our front door. Holding Quinn's hand. Tyler right behind them. Smiling. I dropped my coffee all over the office carpet. Because that woman? She wasn't Fiona. She wasn't a friend. She was family. And she was supposed to be legally banned from crossing state lines. I watched the Ring footage so many times that the frame burned into my vision. A woman, barefoot, smiling, walking my daughter into my home like she belonged there. Tyler followed behind with Quinn in his arms, cool as ever, like this was just another Tuesday. But the woman? Her name is Dana. She's Tyler's sister. She's also the reason I once woke up in a cold sweat at 2 a.m. gripping Hazel's baby monitor like it was a lifeline. Because Dana is the family secret nobody talks about unless they're drunk or screaming. And she was supposed to be gone. Gone for good. Dana had a restraining order that spanned 2 states. She'd been flagged as unfit to be near minors. After a string of incidents I only know about in fragments, addiction, violence, something involving Tyler's younger cousin that the family swept under a rug woven from denial and shame. I hadn't seen her in nearly 5 years. Tyler swore she was out of the picture. His exact words. We don't speak. She's not safe. But now she was walking my baby into our house like a long-lost auntie on a casual visit. I called Tyler 6 times before he picked up. "Hey," he said, too calm. "Everything okay? What the hell is Dana doing in our house?" I asked, skipping any pretense. Silence. Then a slow, rehearsed lie. "What are you talking about?" I hung up and texted him the footage. 3 minutes later, he replied, "She wanted to see the girls." "It's not what you think." "Not what I think." This was a woman who once locked her own dog in a closet for 2 days because it wouldn't stop whining. A woman who overdosed in her teenage cousin's bed. A woman who gaslit a 9-year-old into silence after he tried to tell his parents what she did. And now she was braiding my toddler's hair and dressing her in outfits I didn't buy. Becca came over that night. We sat in the living room in silence while I replayed the footage on a loop. "She's in your house," Becca whispered. "I know. She's been in your house," she corrected. That's when it hit me. The tampons. The onesie. The clip. They weren't signs of an affair. They were breadcrumbs. Dana had been here. Inside. While I was gone. She'd been dressing my children. Touching their hair. Leaving traces behind like a stray cat marking its territory. But the worst part. Tyler let her in. He unlocked the door. He parked in the garage so the Ring camera wouldn't catch her. He let her sleep here while I was away for that conference last month. That wasn't a guess. I'd found the guest sheets in the washer 2 days after I got back. He told me he was just doing laundry. Dana wasn't a secret. She was a plan. A hidden truth, wrapped in denial and fed to me in slow, poisonous doses. When I confronted Tyler in person, he didn't even deny it. "She's getting better," he said, like that justified it. "She's been through a lot." "You brought her into our home without telling me," I said, voice shaking. "She's been near our children." He sighed. "You're making this bigger than it is." "No," I snapped. "You're just trying to make it smaller than it feels." That night I barely slept. I stayed up writing down every strange thing I could remember from the last few months. The subtle shifts. The things I brushed off. A missing toy. A drawer rearranged. Hazel's sudden obsession with bows. Dana had been there all along. When I picked Hazel up from daycare the next day, she pointed to a woman across the street and said, "That's Auntie Dana." My legs nearly gave out. I turned to look, but the woman was already gone. A shadow between buildings. A whisper of a nightmare coming back to life. I called my lawyer that night. Not to file for divorce. Not yet. But to ask, if my husband knowingly brought a restricted individual around our children, what rights do I have? Because this isn't just about betrayal anymore. It's about safety. It's about 2 little girls who trust me to protect them. And a husband who's been hiding a ticking time bomb under our roof. The day the cameras arrived, I almost chickened out. There was something about actually recording my home, my family, that felt like crossing a line. But then I remembered the onesie. The bow. The way Quinn said "Auntie," like it was nothing. I remembered the first tampon in the car. I had to stop waiting for truth to announce itself politely. Becca's husband helped me install the cameras. One in the living room tucked inside the bookshelf, another in the hallway near the girls' room. The last one, cleverly, was positioned near the laundry, pointed directly at the garage door. That door. The one Tyler always used when he didn't want the Ring camera at the front to see him come and go. The first few days? Nothing. Tyler was exactly what he'd always been, charming, efficient, attentive with the girls. If I hadn't seen the footage from a week before, I'd have believed I was losing my mind. But then came Friday. I was at work when my phone buzzed. Motion detected, garage hallway camera. My heart leapt. I opened the app, not expecting much. But the screen lit up with something I never prepared for. There she was. Dana. Not from last week. Now. Today. She stepped into a hallway like she owned it, wearing one of my hoodies, my hoodie, and carrying a small purple backpack that I immediately recognized as Hazel's. Behind her was Tyler, holding a tray of cookies. They were laughing. He kissed her cheek. I dropped my phone. Not out of drama. Out of shock. It was like watching my own life on someone else's television. But what came next was worse. I scrubbed the footage back and watched it again. Slower. Dana didn't just walk in. She used a key. She opened the garage door with a code and let herself in. That purple backpack? Hazel's daycare pack. Why was it at home in the middle of the day? My brain short-circuited. I called Becca immediately. She came over after work, and we watched the footage together. Every second. Every smile. Every touch. I thought she was in rehab, I whispered. She probably was, Becca said. And now she's here. In your house. With your husband. I stared at the screen. I had only asked Tyler about Dana after I saw the ring footage. He told me she hadn't been around since rehab. That he'd just been trying to give her closure. But here she was. In a hoodie I wore 3 nights ago. Holding my daughter's backpack. Baking cookies with my husband like some twisted version of domestic bliss. That night, I confronted him. I waited until the girls were asleep. I put the footage on the TV and hit play. He stood in the middle of the living room, blinking at the screen like he was seeing ghosts. You have her a key, I said. He didn't answer. You told me she hadn't been here in weeks. Still silence. You kissed her. That's when he spoke. It's not what it looks like. It was so cliché I almost laughed. But I didn't. I stood there and waited. He stared at the screen. I didn't want to lie to you, he said, voice shaking. I just didn't know how else to fix things. Fix what, Tyler? I asked. Fix what? And then came the twist I never saw coming. He sat down slowly, rubbing his face like he could scrub the guilt off with his palms. She's dying, he said. I blinked. What? Dana's sick. Liver failure. She got kicked off the transplant list. I felt my knees lock. She reached out 6 months ago. Said she wanted to make peace. That she wanted to spend time with family while she still could. He looked at me, eyes raw. I knew you'd say no. I knew you'd never let her see the girls. So I hid it. I lied. Because I thought, if I could control it, if I could just make it quiet, it wouldn't hurt anyone. But it is hurting people, I whispered. He looked down. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just walked upstairs, curled up between my daughters, and stayed there the entire night, listening to them breathe. Because no matter how tragic Dana's story was, that didn't change what had happened. The lies. The risk. The violation of my trust. And as I held Quinn's hand in the dark, I realized something chilling. It wasn't Dana's illness that endangered us. It was the man who thought he had the right to decide how much truth I deserved. I gave him one more night. One more night to sleep under the same roof before I decided what to do. I spent it between my daughters, listening to them sigh in their sleep, smelling the faint vanilla scent of their hair. The next morning, I didn't say anything. I poured coffee like normal. I asked if Hazel had her lunchbox. I told Tyler, "We'll talk tonight." But when he left, I didn't go to work. I went back to the cameras. The footage from the night before, the one he swore was a quiet goodbye, showed Dana slipping out the back door at 2:14 a.m. Wearing my robe. Carrying a tote bag I'd been looking for all week. She hadn't said goodbye. She was getting comfortable. I drove straight to the hospital where she was supposedly being treated for liver failure. There was no record of her being a patient. Not now. Not ever. I sat in the parking lot for 10 full minutes, watching people pass by my windshield as my chest caved in on itself. She wasn't dying. She was moving in. Tyler hadn't just lied to protect her. He'd built an entire reality for her inside our house. And for months, he let me believe I was unraveling, grasping at invisible strings of paranoia while he fed her presence into the spaces I called mine. The tampons? Hers. The hair clip? She put it in Quinn's hair, not for Dana, not for Tyler, for me. To find. to feel. Every small trace was a breadcrumb, and Tyler handed her the bag. That night, I didn't wait for him to come home. I had Becca and her husband come over. We boxed up every item Dana could have touched. We checked every drawer. We changed the locks. I shut off Tyler's garage access. I deleted his fingerprint from the front door app. Then I made a folder. Title: Evidence of Deceit and Endangerment. Inside I placed screenshots of ring footage, video of Dana entering with a key, her using the garage code, Tyler kissing her, my emails to daycare showing Quinn was supposed to be there on the day she wasn't. I printed a hard copy, another for my lawyer, and a digital version backed up to the cloud. When Tyler came home, the house was silent. He opened the door to find me standing in the kitchen, arms crossed, folder in hand. He tried to speak. I raised my hand. I know everything. She's not dying. She never was. And you lied for her, over and over. You let her around our children. He opened his mouth again. I slid the folder across the counter. This goes to court tomorrow. He flipped through it. Slowly. His face strained as he saw himself on screen, laughing. Letting her in. Letting her parent. Then came the panic. The stammering. I didn't mean to. You meant every second of it, I said, my voice hollow. You made me think I was crazy. You gasped at me with a smile while she wore my clothes and fed my kids cookies. Do you know how violating that is? He tried to reach for my hand. I stepped back. I already filed. The lawyer has it. And I'll fight for full custody. You endangered them. You chose her over them. Over me. Over the truth. His voice cracked. I thought if I could just fix it. You didn't fix anything. I whispered. You replaced me. He broke down then. For real this time. Not the fake shame I'd seen before. But it was too late. The trust was gone, rotted at the root. The next 6 months were brutal. He fought the custody order. Dana tried to reach out. I blocked her on every channel. My lawyer pushed for supervised visits only. We won. The judge reviewed everything. The footage. The timeline. The lies. I got primary custody. Tyler was granted 2 supervised weekends a month. The house? Mine. The girls? Safe. And me? Healing. Slowly. Some mornings I still reach for a robe that isn't there. I still second-guess my memory. But then Hazel runs in with her lopsided ponytail and says, Mama, I love you the biggest. And I remember, I survived this. The man I trusted tried to replace me with someone who once disappeared from his life for a reason. He invited her in. And now? He watches her leave again, this time for good.